I'd like to thank all the viewers that have been watching our episodes on surviving Vietnam. This is my wife, Diana, and we want to thank you guys just big time for continuing to watch. There's been some questions about some issues, and we're going to address them today. And so you can all understand why after 50 years I might have missed some numbers here and there. But we're going to go through this technically and show you, and prove that I was even in Vietnam.
Educate.
And Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll have no doubt when we're finished that this is all true.
All right, number one. Were you in Vietnam?
Well, the question is, I'm definitely not looking like I did in Vietnam. Do you think?
A few pictures here and there.
18 years old in Vietnam.
What have you got here? You've got a DD-214. You want to show that to everybody?
DD-214.
Ah, your name on it.
One of the most correct documents that I have, that you can't just go down to Walmart and buy one of these, okay?
All right. Now, here's from the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And it confirms the length of your service and the dates of your service and your name. And then just because we thought it might have been a clue when the roll-in showed you in country and a few of the other posts, here's a picture of you in the service.
This is actually boot camp, graduation.
Yes, and we've got one more of those.
By the way, Fort Ord, California.
All righty, and what about that?
This is our graduating class at Fort Ord, 1969. Me and all my buddies.
And last but not least, your Department of Defense Uniformed Services. That's your special card that allows you to have certain privileges that you don't have unless you have a Department of Defense number.
This gets us into a naval base 20 miles from where we live. It's called Lemoore, where all the F-18s, F-16s and stuff are. Without this, you're not getting on that base, especially these days. So I don't think you can buy that at Walmart either.
I think that should answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
Along with the other proofs of information of Dennis actually being in country, along with the pictures of him in country, when someone had suggested that we get a copy of all of his records, we applied immediately, but unfortunately, due to COVID, that whole department has been shut down for anything other than emergencies. So we've already applied. They still are not processing anybody's records requests, even though we've shown you all the other government records. And as soon as they come, we will be adding a link to this episode for the series to make sure that you can check for yourself if you have any questions. But Dennis is going to share about the different divisions that he was in and why they moved him around so much. That's a good question.
I was in 4 units. I was in the 9th Infantry, which is the unit I was in when we went into Cambodia. Then I was in the 1st Cav, which is air mobile. They would fly us and drop us into the jungle and drop our weapons, the 105 howitzers, into the jungle from Chinooks. And then I was in the 25th Infantry, and then I was in the 1st of the 82nd Airborne. Now, the reason I was in 4 different units was our government was beginning to pull out of Vietnam. And that sometimes, and did, take years to do. And because you're not talking about just the Army, you're talking about Marines, Air Force, Navy. We were pulling out of Vietnam. And so when we asked, what do you mean I'm going to the 25th from the 9th? They said, well, the Army's shuffling things around. So what they do when they move out, they have to downsize one unit to, whatever, however they do it. The generals handle that stuff. But we definitely had questions. Why are you moving us around? In fact, I never got my pay raise because I was in 4 different units. And when I got back from Nam, we contacted the government and said, I never got my rank. I should have been an E5 sergeant. But I came out of PFC because they kept moving us to different units. And so as far as we know, that's what they told us. We're getting ready to pull out of Vietnam.
Well, and the link that we're putting on History Channel clearly shows that even though that they had started the process of withdrawing and saying this isn't working, that under Nixon, and you can check this on our link in the History Channel, the history is very clear about it, is that even though they were withdrawing people, they were also doing offensives, trying to do great damage to the North Vietnamese because it bought them time in training the South Vietnamese, who they honestly hoped were going to be able to save their part of the country and not become communistic. So make sure and check that link out if you have questions about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were some questions about the weight of the rounds we fired in artillery in Vietnam. I was in a 105 unit in this picture. This is showing an illumination round. There was a question about what I quoted as the weight of this round. And thinking through it all after 50 years, to us, it felt like it weighed 100 pounds every time we picked a thing up, especially during the fire mission when you got to fire 100 of these things. But this round would come with another round. When they delivered the ammunition from a Chinook, it would hang from whatever they hooked that big old net to, full of ammunition, and there were boxes of ammunition. And each box carried 2 rounds of 105 shells. And they came in these little black tube things with cardboard probably that thick. And they had a little cap top on them, and you would tear that off and pop that cap off and tip them rounds out and pull them out of there and do what you need to do with the powder other part of the round, the canisters. And you put these things together and you put the fuses on and you put them in the ammo bunker. But the thing was, when I thought about it and I got to adding up all these weights, with the 2 rounds in the ammo box and the weight of the ammo box and the cardboard tubes that held these rounds, that probably did come to 100 pounds. And that's probably what I was thinking of, because most of our time was breaking out new deliveries of ammo and putting everything together and getting ready for firefights. And so a lot of our time was taking these ammo boxes and putting the stuff together and getting ready for firefights. And so that's probably what I remember being so heavy, these rounds. But after researching it, I think we figured out the rounds were like 33 pounds or something, just this round, not including the boxes or what they came in. So the total weight of the boxes and the rounds 2 together had to be near 100 pounds. That's probably where my brain went with the 100 pounds for these. Now the 155s SP rounds, them suckers were like 95 pounds. And there's different kinds of 155s. This 155, I think I was with the 25th Infantry with this one. You actually go inside the gun and you load the gun manually with this certain 155. There's different kinds of 155s that might have a hydraulic lift that lifts them up and loads them. But these were like 100 pounds, just the shell. And so that's another place I could have got the 100-pound thing. The bottom line is the numbers were off, but the labor wasn't off. It kicked your butt no matter which one you were lifting all night long, firing in these firefights. So I don't really think it matters, but it matters to somebody. They think I really didn't fire them. And this 50 caliber, there was a question about, was I walking around with a 50 caliber like, humping through the jungle or something with a 50 caliber. No, the 50 caliber we showed and was talking about, this is a guard bunker right here. And that 50 caliber is mounted for guard duty. That's what this is. This stays there. You don't take that thing in and out of there and walk around with it and do whatever. You go out there and this is where you pull guard. And if anybody comes across that perimeter, that's what you use, this 50 caliber. So to clear that up.
You know, we were kind of happy that the questions were asked from the people that actually wanted to know. And I'm not referring to trolls that have nothing better to do and have done no research and are just spewing things. But these are for the people that wanted to know, are Dennis and I legitimate? Did he do his service? And by asking the questions, one of the people we referred to on one of the videos, Monty Roberts and his Horse Sense and Healing Clinics, I got to work with him for 3 months on a project once. And he said, you know, those people that question you and your detractors and your accusers are actually your greatest gift, because if you haven't educated them and they have legitimate questions, they're really a gift so that you can straighten things out. And so one of the neatest things that came out from this picture that we found, we started going through old pictures, is that on the back, it says Vietnam, May 23rd, 1970, illumination round on the Cambodian border before going in the second time. So people that also were questioning about the whole Cambodia thing, here's Dennis in country in Cambodia on the border. The other thing is, and this is so cool, Dennis's mother recently passed away this year at 92. And one of the stories that he had mentioned about had to do with that he would lie to his mother so that she wouldn't worry, since he was in jungle and in combat. And he had talked about writing her a letter, and that when she got home, she said, you know, she didn't believe him, that he was in a base camp, which is what he would always tell her, I'm fine, Mom. And here his little sister gave us from her belongings, from his mother's belongings, a letter sent from the military with photos in there that included him with guns and in country and everything else. But literally, we got the letter handed to us that had mud on it from in jungle. So I think that covers those things. Let's go ahead and, did you want to share about this that came home with you from the service?
This is called a short timer's calendar. Everybody that served in Vietnam had one of these. When it came close to going home, it says TT time. You'd start marking off the days you had left till you got to go home. And I've kept this all these years because that thing was really important back then. Yeah, there was a question about how hot it got in Vietnam. And I found that kind of humorous, because if I talked to any veteran, any Vietnam veteran, I would say, dude, it was a freaking 140 degrees over there. They'd say, at least. So maybe I should have said it felt like 140. And I can tell you it did, because we'd have our flak jackets on for the jungle, our steel pots, which would increase that heat so freaking hot. It felt like 190, okay, guys? May not have been 140, but it sure felt like 140. So I just want to clear that up. You ask any non-vet how hot he thought it was over there, and his answer would probably be hot as hell. Okay, but anyway, to be specific, I don't know exactly what the numbers were there, but they were damn hot. I know that. Okay, go ahead.
Well, you know, I was just thinking about when you were talking about too that you guys didn't get showers and stuff, and when you had red clay ground into your body on top of metal around you, on top of, I could see why it would feel like that.
Now, speaking about that, it's a good thing to talk about here. I can remember being in Cambodia, I think it was 3 weeks, and the infantry discovered a creek this wide. And when the word got out, there were 100 GIs down there, and you'd have to stand in line, and you would take your steel pot and dip it in the water, a little tiny creek, and you got 2 scoops. That was it. You pour that on your head. You didn't have time to do all that soap and all that, and you rinse, and you're out. But we did get a shower right there.
It was hot water?
But when we came out of Cambodia, there were TV cameras everywhere, and we came out in Deuce and a House in a convoy, and we were all clay head to toe. I mean, thick. I came back with acne so bad from that not being able to take them showers. But we came out of there, and we were 18, we were flipping off the cameras and doing all that stuff. They were saying we weren't there, and we were holding our M16s, and anyway, that's another story.
Well, and Nixon in Cambodia, and I've got a picture to show you, but Nixon had sent us in on April 28th and didn't have everybody out of there until almost July. So there was several months that we were in Cambodia. And this is a picture of Dennis in Cambodia holding his illumination round. It's dated May 23rd, and interestingly says that it was about a second return going into Cambodia. But so Cambodia happened. It did happen in early 1970, and you can check the History Channel, study things before you, well, anyway.
That's a good point.
Before you ask a million questions that don't make sense. Anyway, so that was
I hope this clears it up for you, because I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do it. So I hope, you do your own research. As far as them 4 units go, we don't know, COVID's going on. That could take a year. If that's too long for you, you look it up. It's there. 4 units, 9th Infantry, 1st Cav, 25th Infantry, 1st of the 82nd Airborne. I was there.
Lastly, there's some pictures here, and you'll probably get to edit this in. But
All the boys.
you talked about what you were doing this for, and it was for your brothers.
Look at this with all the racism crap going on. That didn't happen there. This was my best friend over there.
Yeah.
Henry from Alabama.
Here's Paul on the roof, Bill on my right, Terry on my left. This is our hooch. Notice all the sandbags. We really humped to get it finished. And this is what he was talking about. Some people, rightly so, said, oh my God, I can't imagine you going through the jungles, doing this, doing that, in that heat, setting stuff up. And then they got word that
March
the enemy
order.
was
It
coming.
was called March order.
And you, if you didn't want him to get this stuff, you had to cut these open?
They would call March order, and you'd have to tear everything down and destroy it, because you didn't want to leave anything the enemy could use to kill you with. So you had to really check and make sure you didn't drop any M16 rounds, any grenades, claymores, anything laying around, they would take and use it to kill us. And so I would tell my wife these stories about they'd come in and we'd be so dog tired, and they'd yell out March order. And you'd hear a whole lot of GIs saying bad words, because that meant get your, working. We don't care how tired you are. We have to go to another position or be killed, one of the two. Or someone needs our support really bad. The 105s would fire 7 miles. Pretty sure 7 miles. And so we had to get in firing position to help the infantry. But anyway, a lot of memories going on
Well, you
here.
also commented, you said this was in front of our hooch. And if you look close, let me see. And you mentioned this was really nice for out in the field. So this wasn't the norm. And then Henry, one of my best partners, a hell of a nice guy, used to sing Back in the World, and he's from Alabama. Henry, if you're out there, contact us. And there's one more here, but the brothers, always about the brothers. They were fighting for each other. They didn't quite know what they were doing there, but they were fighting for each other.
The main reason I'm doing these series, is one of my best friends was killed in Vietnam. That's why I went to Vietnam, first of all, and to revenge his death. But what did we know at 18? It was a different story when I got there. But I've had many friends die from suicide since I've been back from Vietnam. And they were in the Army, and I couldn't save them. Not many. What are you going to do besides be their friend, which I was to my last friend that killed himself. And that's the reason I'm doing these series. If we can help one veteran from doing that, that's far from blowing my head off in my mother's driveway. And 1970, whatever, I don't remember. It was a year or two after I was back. And guess what? I didn't do it. And I just want to say to the guys out there, don't do it. I have 3 sons who are my best friends. I have a wife that's my best friend. And I have 8 grandkids that I have to live for.
With a 9th on the way.
With a 9th on the way. And I have been blessed beyond words. But it was because I didn't pull that trigger. And trust me, I was in a dark, dark place, and I know where you guys are. I qualified to talk about this because I was there, and I know where you are. You can't see it now. But if you don't trust me on any of these numbers I've given, I don't really care. That's your problem. But I want you to trust me on one thing. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to do what I can to help save these guys. And you guys with nothing better to do, you do what you want to do. But if I can help just one, that's what our purpose is. And that's all I have to say to you.
Glad we can answer your questions. Hope it clears anything up that you wanted to know. And if Grandpa, headed for 70 next month, glitches occasionally, I don't know anybody else on earth who's ever forgotten an exact thing, but it's a privilege, and we really want to honor those who are hurt.
Never again. I'll never forget anything. Ever. So thanks for listening. Hey guys, how you doing? I talked to a man named Bob the other day, and he's connected with a therapy called brain paint. And he visited with me probably an hour or so. And my wife knew about this kind of therapy because I had had 4 sessions before with it down in LA. But this is a different place that's running this brain paint. But my wife, I've had, like most of you, probably bad dreams for, I don't know, 50 years now. And I have horrendous screams during the night. And depending on how I'm doing, whether it's 1, 2, 3 screams a night, I don't really, I'll scream and I'll recognize what it is and I'll just go right back to sleep. I don't give it any attention because it only lasts like a few seconds or whatever, and then I just go back to sleep. When my wife noticed that when I did this brain paint, it cut them screams down to like maybe 2 a night. And she observed that she thought it was a great help for me. Of course, I don't recognize it because I'm sleeping. And the texts, they don't stop coming, but maybe I get less with this brain paint. Bob informs me people have been entirely healed from this therapy, Even people with strokes have been tremendously helped. So we're going to put information on the video so you guys can look him up on your own and maybe give him a phone call, or it's worth going to try out. Thanks.